Zara 9 had always prided herself on being an exemplary student at the Galactic Cooperative Academy. Her crystalline form shimmered softly as she absorbed the professor's lecture on quantum harmonics, her photosynthetic cells drinking in the pole, artificial sunlight streaming through the biodome's transparent walls. Around her, dozens of species from across the galaxy sat in similar contemplation, the graceful Ethereans floating in their containment fields, the methodical hive minds tapping out calculations in perfect synchronization, and the ancient crystalloids resonating with mathematical frequencies. And then there was Sarah Chun. The human sat in the back corner, as she always did, hunched over what appeared to be a primitive datapad. Unlike the other species who had evolved past the need for such crude technology, the Deathworlder still relied on mechanical interfaces. Her species had only recently been admitted to the cooperative, and even then, only under strict observation protocols. Professor Veltak's four eyes swept across the classroom as he explained the delicate balance required for interstellar navigation. As you can see, the slightest miscalculation in quantum resonance can tear apart the very fabric of space-time. This is why we rely on our eye-enhanced consciousness matrices to. The alarm split the air like a plasma blade. Red emergency. Lights bathed the classroom in an ominous glow as the station's defensive I announced in 17 different languages. Hostile fleet detected. All civilians proceed to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Chaos erupted instantly. The Ethereans' containment fields flickered as their panic disrupted their energy patterns. The hive minds began chattering in their clicking language, their coordination dissolving into fear. Even the ancient crystalloids emitted discordant frequencies of terror. Zara 9 felt her own light dim as dread coursed through her crystalline matrix. The devourers, she was certain it had to be them. The nightmare species that consumed entire star systems, leaving nothing but dead space in their wake. Every child in the galaxy knew the stories, but as the classroom descended into pandemonium, something impossible happened. Sarah Chun stood up. Not in panic, not in fear, but with a fluid motion that seemed to defy the chaos around her. Her face, usually so soft and unremarkable, had transformed into something else entirely. Her eyes, which moments before had seemed drowsy with boredom, now held the cold calculation of a predator. "Everyone get down," she said, her voice cutting through the noise with an authority that made no sense. This was a Deathworlder, a species barely out of their single-planet phase. Primitives who had only discovered faster-than-light travel 3 decades ago. Professor Veltak's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Miss Chun, please remain calm and follow evacuation proto." The outer wall exploded. The blast sent Zara 9 tumbling across the floor, her crystalline form cracking against the reinforced polymer. Through the gaping hole, she could see them, the Devourer's bioships, writhing masses of flesh and metal that pulsed with malevolent intelligence. Boarding pods launched from their hulls like cancerous spores, but Sarah Chun was already moving. She grabbed the emergency axe from the wall, a crude tool meant only for the most primitive of emergencies, and brought it down on Zara 9's desk with devastating force. The reinforced smart material that could withstand meteor impacts split cleanly in half. "Zara, behind me, now." The human's voice had dropped to a growling whisper. Zara 9's translator struggled with the concept. Behind? Her? The human was barely half her size, with no natural armor, no energy manipulation abilities, no quantum-enhanced processing power. What protection could such a primitive being possibly offer? The first devourer burst through the breach. Zara 9 had seen them in holographic simulations, but reality was far worse. 3 meters of writhing flesh and razor-sharp appendages, with biomechanical enhancements that gleamed weightily in the emergency lighting. Its multiple sensor clusters fixed on the classroom's occupants, and it emitted a sound that bypassed the periphery ears entirely, a frequency of pure hunger that resonated in the soul. Every civilized being in the room froze. It was the rational response. The Devourers were apex predators from the galactic rim, engineered for violence across 1 billion years of evolution. Resistance was not just futile, it was incomprehensible. Sarah Chun charged it. The primitive axe became a blur of motion as she closed the distance in 2 impossibly fast strides. The Devourer's razor appendages whipped toward her with lethal precision, but somehow impossibly, she was already moving, already somewhere else. The axe biting deep into the creature's center mass. The Devourer's death screen shattered 3 windows. More creatures poured through the breach, but the human was already among them, moving with a fluidity that made no evolutionary sense. She shouldn't have been fast enough, strong enough, or aware enough to track their movements. But there she was, turning their own momentum against them, finding impossible angles of attack, exploiting weaknesses that the galaxy's greatest military minds had failed to identify. How? Zara 9 whispered, her translator barely functioning. Sarah Chun glanced back for just a moment, her face streaked with alien blood, and smiled with all the warmth of a collapsing star. "You guys evolved past violence," she said, ducking under a bioplasma blast and bringing her axe up in a devastating arc. "We never got the chance." The last Devourer fell, its biomechanical system sparking and dying. Farah stood among the carnage, breathing hard but otherwise unharmed, while around her the most advanced species in the galaxy cowered in shock. Outside, the sounds of battle continued as the station's defenses engaged the Devourer fleet. But in Classroom 7 Delta, there was only silence and the soft hum of the humans breathing. Professor Veltak finally found his voice. "Miss Chun, how did you? They are apex predators, Sarah wiped the axe clean on her academy uniform and hung it back on the wall. "Professor, where I come from, everything is trying to kill you. Weather, animals, plants, bacteria, other. Humans, gravity itself. We didn't get to evolve past our survival instincts because we never could afford to." She looked around the room at the assembled representatives of galactic civilization, her expression somehow both gentle and terrifying. "You all became civilized because you achieved safety. We became civilized despite never having it." As if to punctuate her words, the station's AI announced the Devourer fleet's retreat. Zara-9 stared at her broken desk, then at the human who had just redefined her understanding of the universe. Perhaps, she thought, the Galactic Cooperative had been approaching the Deathworlder question all wrong. Perhaps they weren't the ones who needed protection. Sarah Chun sat back down at her desk, the half that was still intact and returned to her primitive datapad as if nothing had happened. "Now," she said calmly, "what were you saying about quantum harmonics, Professor?"